Hello everyone, my name is Marco Mamula, and I'm together here with my colleague Gabriele Puliti, and we'll be taking you through our session about SAP Automation using Ansible. Today's session is a little bit different because it's marked as tutorial session, so we will not be just showing you automation itself, but we'll be going deep dive into what it consists of, all the parts of the roles of the collections, so you can get familiar with it, because there might be some details that you don't just have to consume it in a way that it's delivered, but there are a lot of ways how you can customize it to yourself. In terms of the agenda, we will start with a simple comparison between existing salt stack automation and Ansible automation. We will go into details about our open source initiative. We will go through all those building blocks, which will be the deep dive session, focusing on roles, collections, and all those pieces. Then, of course, we need to piece them together, so that will be actual playbook, where we can actually show you how it all combines together, all the dependencies, how it flows through the actual playbook itself. And then we will show you how you can use it, because playbook is playbook, but we need to how to use it. So the section will be this about how to start with it, what are the requirements, and then actual demo session where we will show you some short beginning how you can use it, even in a simplest form, with small inputs, and you can just play it and you will install the SAP system. Then we will go into roadmap, where we can go through what's happening now, what is the future, and focus on QA session. So that's all for the agenda, and I'm expecting that by end of this session, you will know what we are showing you, what kind of details we have about this automation, how to use it, how to start with it, and that is very easy.
Okay, thank you, Marcel, for the introduction. In today's session, we are going to talk about Ansible, of course, but it would not be fair not talking about the existing salt stack automation. The salt stack automation was initially released in 2019, and it was presented in a few SUSECon, with the most recent one in 2022. There are two major pieces of this salt stack automation. We have the HA SAP Terraform deployment, and is an end-to-end deployment automation using Terraform that can deploy servers in public and in private cloud. It can also prepare file system, install SAP system, and so on. Then we have the SAP HANA Bootstrap formula. Is an application layer automation that can contain the same functionality as the application part of the previous automation that we have talked about, with the main difference that it comes bundled as a zipper packages, so you can install with zipper. Both of them are available on GitHub in the SUSE organization, and you can find as it shows the slide. It is necessary to explain what SAP Linux Lab Open Source Initiative is. Some time ago, we have partnered up with SUSE, of course, SUSE, and other partner of SAP like Red Hat, IBM, SAP of course, and NetHub. We are decided to work together to foster the open source. You can find every information about this initiative in this side. The first is the GitHub organization, where you can find all of the repository. And the second one is the website of the initiative. And as we have already mentioned, there is the website that can explain a lot of this initiative, but here are the main objective of this project. The main target of this initiative is to foster open source collaboration among every SAP technology partner and customers. Then we have that our automation, our Ansible role, we are going to deep dive in the role later on, are often and are operating system agnostic to ensure that they can be executed in different SAP supported enterprise Linux operating system. Of course, all of the features and releases are based on 3 main points. We have that we need to ensure that the supported scenarios are implemented. The second point is that every customer and user requirement are implemented, and then we have that we need to keep up to date with SAP nodes and security vulnerabilities. With the other partner that join in this initiative, we have, of course, an asynchronous channel through Slack, GitHub, and mails. But we have also a monthly governance meeting where we talk about releases, changes, and next plan. In the last month, we decided also to create a technical meeting that we do every 2 weeks. There are quite a few repositories in the organization, but we do not have many time to show every repository, so we choose the main one, and we have divided in IT life cycle. We have the day one automation that is meant to deploy and our SAP install and SAP infrastructure. Then we have the second day automation that is for day-to-day operation, and these two collection are SAP operation and SAP Launchpad. And then for the last category, we need to mention the Ansible playbook, and we are going to use it later on of this talk. And we are going to, we will take you through all of these repository and what they consist of, their roles, and their features.
Okay, so you got a small overview of different categories of those automations. We don't categorize them like that, it's just how they are used. So it would be good to start with SAP install, because that's day one. People should use it, people are using it. And we are listing a few roles here, what they are doing, because those are the pieces that will be deep dive into them. So SAP Storage Setup sounds simple. It's setting up your volumes, LVMs, it's setting up NFS, swap volumes, setups folders, permissions. So this is the baseline for your installation of SAP system. You have pre-configured roles. Those are defined by setting up OS parameters that are needed by SAP nodes. It's running SAP tune itself with selected pattern that you select using the variables. And by end of them, your system is even better and is more ready for execution. So once your system and server is ready, you need to, you see here, install media detect. That's our role that is actually specifically done to detect your files that you provide in your folder for installation. It's unpacking them, it's checking the manifest files, it's checking the naming convention, comparing it against what you actually requested using variable file, because you need to select the product. So it's checking what you provided, if it's good, if it's not good. And it also prepares internal variables in the playbook itself for further execution. Then we have SAP HANA install. It makes sense from the name itself. Majority of the role is doing input validation, input preparation, because it has to prepare configuration file for HDBLCM. So this is working on the baseline that it prepares everything for you based on what you requested, and then it runs HDBLCM and verifies the output. Of course, once you do HANA, you need to set up an application for it. So there is a specific role, HANA install, HANA HSR. Then one sets up the application, so it configures it, runs the backup, and enables SR. Then SWPM. SAP SWPM is our biggest role. because it contains a lot of functionalities that are for validation, because you have a lot of different products. So we are going through them, we are validating them, making sure that whatever you input into SWPM as the input file is good, because there are so many parameters you need to provide, and we expose a lot of them in the form of variable files, which means you can very easily specify, I'm running this kind of product on this kind of database, and based on that, it will build file for you, which means once you have inputs in, SWPM is good. And I would consider the biggest row, HA pacemaker cluster. This one is here to configure clusters on HANA and ACS ERS. This one is biggest because it contains a lot of code that is platform specific, because we are supporting cloud platforms. So it has different setup for different cloud platforms, different vendors, and it sets up cluster using the scenarios that we actually support. I can just mention recently we added SAP HANA NG. We are adding a lot of scenarios that were not there before to actually make sure whatever SUSE supports, we are supporting here as well. Okay, it's not working. That's good. So I mentioned SAP install. It's marked as day one, but it's application automation. You need also infra to actually use it. And for that, we have a role that came up in February this year. There was a lot of effort that went into it. It was almost a year of development on it, because when it was released, we wanted to ensure that when it's released, it's supported on all supported platforms at the same time in a manner where what it's doing is same on all of them. So when you look at it, this automation is here to set up your infrastructure in the cloud, configure it, and prepare for the actual application installation. You have two options how to do it. You can select running in Ansible, which is what we primarily recommend, because all the Terraform functionalities are implemented in Ansible here, which means Ansible is doing all of that infra setup for you, which means we could implement a lot of extra validations and checks that Terraform does not do, because Terraform is just a hammer. It will hammer it in, doesn't care. Ansible is there, and we are trying to follow idempotency, so we are not trying to destroy anything here. Yeah, I will be working here. Okay, that's good. So this is a small overview of what is happening when you run SAP infrastructure. You prepare the input files. You need to prepare variables, because you need to set up what kind of instances you want, file systems, all of these inputs. Those are variables for the system itself, for the platform itself. When it's doing provisioning, it's provisioning virtual machines, file systems, it's attaching them to the VMs, it's registering DNS, setting up load balancers, etc hosts, SSH keys, already set up. That's for the normal system. Of course, we have HA system, which requires extra setup that is platform specific. So it's setting up networks, layover IPs, for them new routing tables, DNS, also load balancers and extra security policies like AWS IAM, because as per the platform documentation, you need to have extra configuration for them. So once this is all done, you have servers ready. You have, if you requested HA servers, you have them HA enabled. And the last step, the row is meant to be consumed with the rest, which means a lot of the variables that were generated during the creation, like IDs, the names and everything, is stored in the variables, which means it can be then consumed later on when you run application automation. In terms of supported platforms, we are supporting AWS, Google Cloud, IBM Clouds, Azure, and lately OVIRT virtual machines. In terms of what we are working on, in terms of the next support, is KubeVirt, virtual machines, and VMware. So for us, main focus was on clouds, because most people are using them. And we are testing them on all of that. So whatever changes we got recently, all of it we are trying to apply to all of those cloud solutions. Okay, go next. So that was infrastructure. Both are day one. This is day two. You can look at it. This is collection of different rows that are smaller in a comparison against SAP install. They can help you to operate your SAP systems, but our main focus is day one. So this is you can look at it that this can help you operate a system, but we will bring much more in the future once day one is set in stone in a better shape. At the moment, you can use the roles that can operate a SAP control for you, that can set up profiles on operating system level. You can run backup, you can run takeover on HANA. You can even execute remote RFCs, set up ETS, ECC hosts, and modify firewall. So there's a lot of different roles. They are smaller, and they are you can easily consume them because since they are smaller, they have less inputs, and you can just run them. Instead of next one is SAP Launchpad. This one is a little bit different because this is not the role as the role itself. It's delivered as the collection. And this one, if you remember in SAP install, I skipped between preconfigure and media detect. And that's the reason for this, because SAP install does not contain SAP download functionality. We have specific collection for that can download software for you, which means you don't have to do it. Makes it easier, right? And this one is doing it using suser for authentication method. And it's downloading based on a list of provided media files, so you can get the files and just let it download. Or you can use the maintenance planner, create ID, and just let him get the ID. This is the easiest method. You don't have to care about versions, and it will just get it for you, which means it's then processed by media detect, and it will be validated. So we had different pieces, right? Now we need to show how to use them. In the beginning, when we was delivered, we had example folder in all of the roles where you can see a few lines of code, how you can use it. But that's not sufficient enough, and it's limited in the scope because it's only for the specific roles. Because of that, we have spent a lot of time on developing Ansible playbooks for SAP. This came in the same time with SAP infrastructure in February. This is actually a growing collection of different playbooks for different scenarios. All of them are validated by us. We are working on making sure that those are all possible scenarios. Of course, there are endless number of scenarios that you can have. So this is growing, and we will be adding extra ones as well. Yep, you can go next. This is very similar to the flow that I showed you before for SAP infrastructure, but this is also including application because this is a whole picture. It's showing you what's happening step by step. You can see build is the same as the infrastructure because we are building in the cloud. Configuration is the SAP installation place. So you can see pre-configure steps, SAP tune, SAP download, all of those that I mentioned before. They're all here in the same order that I was explaining them as well, so that it's easier to understand. And you can see it goes through all of that, end to end, and by the end of it, you have system ready. So you can see pre-configure, subtune, that's SAP install, preparation, SAP download, media, again, SAP install, and all of those follow through. Can you go to next? I wanted to show a very simplified way how it's consumed because we went through the pieces. You need to run those pieces. So this is a very small example how you can do HANA HA setup because this is playbook running roles or collection in this case. And this is super simplistic way how you can imagine that. The actual playbook has hundreds of lines because there are extra validations, variables, a lot of cleanup and idempotency. In this case, this is a simplified way. You can see playbook is here. It's running them in order, and then you are providing inputs for them. A lot of them are run in a specific order in a way where the next one in order gets the variables from the previous one, and it just builds and builds. This is an example for SAP S/4HANA HA distributed. So you can find it as one of the deployment scenarios with the same name. Whatever is pre-configured there are servers based on SAP recommendations in terms of the sizing, file system sizing, and platform specific, which means there are different instance types or different platforms. This one in this case deploys 2 HANA servers, 2 ACZR servers for a cluster, 1 PAS, 1 AS. I listed here, as you can see, different repositories or roles that it's running, the same ones in before, but you can see on the last column it's running on which server. Because you need to provision them, you run it for all of them. You need to set up storage, you run it for all of them. But then you start downloading. You don't need to download it for all of them, right? Because you download on one place and then you can just sync it to other servers. So we are downloading on one server, we are detecting on one server, then you are doing HANA, which means you have two HANA boxes and you run pre-configure, install, HSR, cluster on them. Once this is done, you can start focusing on cluster for SAP. So you run NetWeaver pre-configure, SWPM, and pacemaker cluster for ACZRS. This way, 2 clusters are ready, and you can start installing rest of the system, which means data load, which means PAS, AS. You can follow through, which is remaining rows. The naming is similar. You can see they are executed same roles, but on different servers, which means they have different inputs. On ACRS, you are setting up different inputs for SWPM. On PAS, you have different inputs because it's different product. This is comparison for HANA HA Scala performance. This is different because you don't have SAP here as the application, which means you have only two boxes. You run the same, but you stop at the HANA because you don't have SAP. And this is similar to the previous. Everything else up to this point is identical. It will give you the same result, and you have a HANA app, and you can use it. And this is a small comparison to S4HANA, which is standalone. Because you don't have multiple servers, you have one box. So all of it is executed in the same manner as you had in the first scenario, but you removed replication and HA steps here because you don't need them. And it's running on the same box in the same order, and at the end you have system ready. So now Gabriela will show you how you can actually use them.
Yes. Okay, Marcel present us a lot of pieces, but who is the automation for? We have divided into three users and their experience. We can call the first group as beginners. In this group, there are simply users who want to get the automation, run it, and without any changes have the expected outcome. They can also prepare the input variable only to extend what they need and run it with the provided playbook. This is perfect for sandbox or engineering system. Then we have the advanced user, and they can be seen as user that can change the predefined variable like the file system, the instance type, the target of the software version, the SAP software version, the pacemaker cluster modification, and so on. Okay, up and running. That can show the playbook as a good template and start building his own playbook, starting on taking pieces from them and so on. For example, they can selecting BIOS images and then adding the operating system registration step, adding the hardening steps, and so on. The only requirement for the execution server are Python 3.9 or higher, the Ansible core 2.12 or higher, and of course when we choose the deploy scenarios, we also need to install all of the collection that are listed in that scenarios. In this case, the target server operating system product is also mentioned because the automation presented here is SAP oriented, so we need less for SAP as requirement. Here you can see a little of every automation we have going through in this session, and where you can find it. The first four roles are even in GitHub and in the collection and in the Ansible Galaxy collection, and the name you can see in this slide. For the last one, we do not have the collection name, but the reason is because it's a playbook. Okay, let's go to the demo. And before we start, we need to download. Using the Git clone system. So if you are a more developer, you can use the clone. But if you have, we if you didn't have Git, you can go through the releases and download as an archive. This is the repository of playbook for SAP. Here, okay. About all of the deploy scenarios and how it work. And yeah, to clone it, just go through the code button, and you can choose HTTPS, SSH, and so on. And you can also download zip. You can also go to releases in the right side of the page. I have already cloned, so we don't need to do it. But we first need to ensure that we have Python and Ansible installed. So we go with Python -- version, and we have the version 3.9.13. And for Ansible, we have a newer version of core that is on 2.15.12. Okay, now we need to choose deploy scenarios. You can find all of deploy scenarios in here in the repository, and there is a lot of them. Is pre-built, and you can choose wherever you want. For today's session, we are going to take the deploy scenarios SAP for HANA. And here we have this playbook. This playbook can deploy to AWS, Google Cloud Provider Platform, and Microsoft Azure, with of course Ansible to provision, as Marcel already told you. But we have also Ansible plus Terraform, and of course they can work with existing hosts. Here we can follow the documentation, just to make sure that we have we ensure that we have everything set up. We have Ansible Core 2.12 or higher, and we have a higher because we have the 2.15, and Python 3.9 is okay. We need to ensure that we have all of the collection that are listed in the Ansible requirement. You can find the Ansible requirement inside the deploy scenarios, and here are all of the collection needed. We can test Ansible Galaxy install -r, and I'm not in the right directory. Deploy scenarios up HANA. Okay, let's try now. Ansible -galaxy install, and we have the requirement here. Yes, here. We have already all of the collection, so we don't need to install once again. But if you do not have, just this command will install for you. And okay, now this is if we are a beginners user, which we can go and run Ansible -playbook and the Ansible playbook. And this playbook will go through a different prompt and are really good self-explain. Here we need to choose the infrastructure as a code automation that we want to use, Ansible or Ansible to Terraform. For example, we want to go with Ansible. And then here is another prompt that asks you to select the infrastructure platform if you are in AWS or Google Cloud or IBM, and so on. We can go through every prompt, but we can skip it and go into the Ansible playbook. Here you can see every prompt that we have already in here and how it works. Playbook enable interactive prompt and playbook select the infrastructure as a code and so on and so forth. And this is for the beginners. Beginners can also change the extra variable in here. This file is really long. I think is 1,000 or more. You can, yes, 1,060 line of customization. So there is a lot of customization that you can do. And for example, if you want the disk size of HANA data, you can just put here the gigabyte and run the Ansible playbook using the minus extra vars with the Ansible extra var that are listed here. You can just pass the extra var file and good to go. If you are an advanced usage, you can change the default variable and even add more or remove. For example, if we already have, not here, if we have already have our host, we can skip the infrastructure as a code part, remove it, and run the playbook with the host already put. And of course, as the beginners, we can execute the chosen playbook. For the expert one, we can create a new playbook or maybe copy the playbook and paste. We can remove some part, for example, the provision, and everything, add that, change it, and do the hardening stuff, apply the hardening stuff task, and so on. But you can also, for example, take for example only the installation. You can take the download media and installation part, and you are good to go. Just make sure that you have the Galaxy collection installed. And that's all. Here we have the roadmap of the project.
So maybe I wanted to add a few points in previous section, because we divided it into different approaches how you can use it, but they are all based on how people are using it. We have users who are coming, who are just getting latest clone, running it, and it works. Why not, right? You have people who actually need to customize something. It's too expensive. I will select different instance type. I don't want to use 384 gigabytes file system. I will shrink it down to 100, right? Because I have sandbox system. So those are people who are actually using it in a different manner, and you can very easily start from the beginner in terms of running it, and then changing piece by piece, and then you can get to a situation where I'm building clusters and I have stripped down code that is not downloading, it's copying from NFS. It's doing validation to not destroy the system. I'm removing application, I'm doing only clusters. So it's all about how you can use it. At this point, it's meant that you have different scenarios, pick and choose, you run it, and the moment you say, okay, I have an enterprise environment, I don't need cloud, right? You cut out infrastructure part and run it on existing host. It works, right? Because it's application installation. So this is great template for you to actually consume it in a way that actually is needed in your environment. There are customers that have hardened systems. You add hardening step and it's good. So this is all about how you can adjust it, and there are different approaches how you can use it. So this is, you can take it as the small example, how you can approach it. Super customizable, and everybody in our team is using it different way, I can tell you. In terms of the roadmap, we are working to ensure that we are covering all the supported scenarios. For example, recently we are adding SAP HANA SR NG, which is resource agent for HANA. I'm adding a lot of extra scenarios for HA clustering that were not there. We are adding support for new parameters that were missing, new certified parameters for clusters, for example. So all of this stuff is being added. We have a lot of active development. Even now, we have new release coming in next week or week after that contains a lot of extra stuff added. We are improving validations, of course, because idempotency is important. So we are improving that, and we have planned to improve it even more to make sure you don't destroy your stuff. And of course, we have very active community sections. So we have issues open, discussions open. We have also people who started contributing. They're liking it. They want to add their own stuff. They came up with the idea. So nobody's stopping you. You can reach out to us with your contribution as well. And also, since we are in SAP business, we need to respond to SAP notes. So if there's something that has to be implemented, we are implementing it as well. We can start Q&A session. If you have any questions for us, let us know. If you don't have any questions, you can reach out to us for our contacts or directly through the GitHub initiative. So let us know if you have any questions.
Today we are using the Ansible role for the HANA from Red Hat, which is depreciated. Mm-hmm. The install role can not be used to update the HANA database, isn't it?
Yeah, that's in the name itself. Yeah, you cannot update the HANA with it.
Yeah, but is it planned in the future to build a role or a module for updating an existing HANA database?
So in terms of HANA, when we run HDBLCM, and if you feed it with this update, it will update it, right? So I don't see any issue with it at this moment. You should technically be able to run it without any issue, but it's not like supported scenario. HDBLCM just takes what you feed it, right? It works like that. You have a question there?
Hi. I guess I came in a little late, so I might have missed how you guys all started this project. And my question is where did it come about as far as deciding to go with Ansible as opposed to Salt? I didn't know that you guys were writing this, so I basically wrote all of this stuff in Salt and SUSE Manager. So, I mean, not to the depth that you have it as far as working in all different structures, but I was just curious, that thought process, is it interoperability between different platforms? Or?
So you can look at it as the alternative to the Salt, and if you look at Salt, that was mentioned in the beginning as the offering, it's not active anymore in the sense that you don't see many updates anymore, and you don't have big team like this behind it. So you can look at it as the alternative, and you have a lot of customers and users who are more comfortable with Ansible. I mean, let's not hide it fact, right? So you can look at it that we have initiative between different technical partners, and we are working on this. And we are making sure that when you take it, you clone it, you run it on Red Hat, you run it on SUSE, it works, right? There's no difference there. And that's the main point, that we are trying to make it open source, make it work, and people can use it. And that's the idea behind it. We are not trying to shift Salt somewhere else, it's alternative.
And there is a lot of people around the Ansible community.
Okay, any more questions?
I think, yeah.
Thank you. Are there plans to create a role or something else to include scale up and not scale up, scale out systems on HANA?
Yes, it's currently in a queue, and I will be starting with it in next week or so. For me, I'm focusing on HA clustering stuff, so I'm working on those scenarios. So we had to make sure we catch up with everything that is current, and now we can switch to scale out and add more in this way. Yeah, so it's in plan.
Hi, I had a question regarding the SVPM install script part. Does it bring the whole opportunity of the options that SnapVPM brings to us, so that it's a full wrapper of SVPM 1 and 2, or
Yes.
is there any limitation?
It's full wrapper of 1 and 2, and all of those variables are exposed, and they're exposed on category base, which means if you put HANA in as the variable true, right, it will select different HANA specific variables and put them in a config file. So we have a lot of exposed variables that you can just pick and choose as the select box, and based on that, it will build it for you, which means when I was starting with it, I screwed up a few times and it did give me everything because I didn't select it, right? But when you put all of those in, it will give you config file 1, 2, you can run it, and it will give you all of them. Yeah, it's category based, so you don't have to do all of them one by one. And it's not just SWPM, we are exposing most of the rows. They are either exposed as the user variables, or they are exposed as the default variables, where they are either empty or predefined. So all of these, you can pick and choose when you run it as extra variables. You will just override it and you run it there. Yeah, that's also the argument why if you go into README file for Ansible playbooks for SAP, it's advising you to run it with Ansible playbooks with extraverse files. Because in terms of Ansible, you need to smash it in because there's that crazy list of the variable importance and priorities, and you need to smash it from the highest priority one, which is extra variable files. Okay, any more questions? Okay, good. If you don't have any more questions, you can reach out to us. We provided you contact information. And if you're interested, you can attend more sessions that are from our SAP Solutions team in SUSECON. So thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you.